Welcome to ZCon 2. This event was originally planned to take place last summer in Peru, but then COVID happened. And instead of postponing again this year, we decided to go virtual. But we hope that we'll be back to normal again next year. Since the last ZCon in Croatia 2 years ago, a lot has happened. A relatively low-key but very important event that was the conclusion of a trademark agreement between ECC and the Foundation in late 2019. That agreement commits both organizations to respecting the clear consensus of the Zcash community. And we followed through on that commitment when we effectively handed control to the community and let them, you, decide whether and how Zcash development should be funded after the end of the Founders Award. The result was the Dev Fund that continues to fund both the Electric Coin Company and the Zcash Foundation. But most importantly, the lion's share of the Dev Fund is earmarked for major grants, intended to encourage decentralization by supporting new teams dedicated to Zcash that are independent of ECC and the Foundation. All of this is detailed in ZIP 1014, which is a really important document in the context of Zcash governance. In some ways, it's akin to our constitution. And if you haven't read it, I strongly encourage you to do so. Other things that have happened over the past 2 years. Well, ECC is now owned by a new nonprofit, the Bootstrap Project. And that means that both ECC and the Foundation are now nonprofits that are focused on ensuring that Zcash continues to grow and developing technologies that support financial privacy for everyone. But perhaps the most obvious change is that it's not Josh Cincinnati who's opening this conference, it's me. Josh and Anthony established the Zcash Foundation. They hosted the first 2 ZCons in Montreal and Croatia. They established a grants program that supported work by folks like Aditya from Zec Wallet, and they hired a team of engineers to begin working on an independent node implementation of the Zcash protocol, which we're calling Zebra. The foundation would not exist without Josh and Anthony's efforts. A strong, independent Zcash Foundation is essential to supporting the sort of community and ecosystem that's needed in order to help Zcash achieve its full potential. Josh and Anthony deserve the full credit for building a foundation that meets those criteria. And we all, but I especially, owe them a debt of gratitude for getting the foundation to the stage that it's at today and for handing it over in such good shape. I wish we were all here in person to be able to give them a huge round of applause, but I hope they're watching and I hope they recognize that we all thank you so much for all of your efforts and for all of the work that you've done. So having taken over the reins here at the Foundation, what can you expect from me? Well, my first role within the Zcash ecosystem was as the COO of the Electric Coin Company. There, I saw my role as supporting the ECC engineers by taking care of the non-technical stuff that would otherwise distract them from the primary objective of actually building Zcash. So there I was able to take care of administrative work, legal issues, trademark, and later on regulatory issues, which became my primary function. In many ways, my role here at the Foundation is similar. We have a team of engineers and researchers, and it's my job to create an environment in which they can be productive. But my constituency extends far beyond the borders of the Foundation now. We have a whole community of people, all of you who are watching us, both live and later on YouTube, who have an important role to play in helping Zcash be successful. To my mind, probably the most important part of my job is ensuring that we unlock as much of the Zcash community's potential as possible. Now, major grants are probably the most important part of that. They're explicitly intended to fund work by teams that are other and independent from the Foundation and ECC. So examples of grants that have been given out recently are for Zec Wallet development, that was over £340,000. And just today, ZOMG have announced approval of a $670,000 grant for the Tor project for ARTI, a Rust implementation of Tor that we can integrate into Zcash nodes to provide network level privacy, which is essential for ensuring that people will be able to continue to use Zcash without interference, without fear of being targeted by governments and state level actors. The amount of talent and creativity across the broader Zcash ecosystem dwarfs that lies within ECC and the Foundation. and major grants are key to enabling that potential. We'll be hearing more from the Open Major Grants Committee later on today, but for my part, I want to urge you, if you have ideas for projects that support or can improve Zcash, apply for funding from the Zcash Open Major Grants. The funds are there, and the committee is very keen to receive and approve grant applications. Now, within the foundation, our primary focus at the moment is the Zebra node implementation that we're working on, but we need to look beyond simply replicating the Zcash node's functionality. The whole idea behind having two independent organizations within the Zcash ecosystem is that there is diversity of ideas, diversity of implementations, and that we're not all following the exact same set of ideas and the same roadmap. Now, when I joined the foundation, the board asked me about my vision for the future of Zcash. And I told them that I believe that in order to achieve mass adoption and to achieve the potential that it has, Zcash needs to become smart, by which I mean programmable, so that it can evolve to become both a digital currency and a platform for commerce that's decentralized, permissionless, and private. Now, two examples of the sort of features I'm talking about there are user-defined assets, which we'll be discussing in a panel straight after this, and shielded programmability. While Ethereum has blazed the trail in terms of demonstrating what can be achieved with a programmable cryptocurrency, I think that with zero-knowledge proofs-based technology, Zcash has the potential to introduce an entirely new paradigm in terms of smart money, preserving both the privacy of the transactions and the business logic within smart contracts. There's also the possibility of being able to do programmable money and smart contracts in a way that's far, far more efficient than currently exists. So that's something I'm personally very excited about, but we've got a ways to go before we can start seeing this sort of functionality make its way into the Zcash protocol. In the meantime, we have a tremendous lineup planned for the rest of the conference. We're going to be hearing from people from across and from some people outside the Zcash ecosystem, addressing a whole bunch of issues and questions and sharing a whole bunch of information that I think is really important for the Zcash community to be aware of. A lot of work has gone into this conference. Again, I'd like to credit Anthony for having laid the foundations for what you're now experiencing here. But also I want to give a special shout out to both Danica and Paige from the foundation, who've done an amazing job behind the scenes, lining up speakers, coordinating people's time zones and calendars, getting panelists on board, making sure that everybody sent in their bios and the descriptions for their talks or their sessions. And there's a huge amount of work that goes on behind the scenes, a lot of chasing people down, and Danica and Paige have been doing that, and they deserve, again, if we were here in person, we'd be giving them a big round of applause. I also want to thank Ryan, who's handling our AV and streaming. Ryan has been involved in Zcash for quite some time. He spent, like me, a number of years at ECC, and he's done a great job over the years of ensuring that all of the events that we've streamed, including past ZCons, have gone smoothly. Any issues that happen today will not be his fault, I can guarantee you that. We're very, very fortunate to have his help in making all of this possible. Now, ZCon isn't just a foundation event. We have a lot of involvement from the Electric Coin Company team as well. A lot of their folks are appearing on panels and either delivering speeches or presentations or co-delivering presentations with folks from the foundation. And I want to thank Janie and Elena from ECC for helping shepherd all of those ECC folks. And finally, I want to thank all the speakers and panelists, without whom this would be a pretty boring event. Now, beyond ZCon, we have the forums, we have a Discord running today, and I would strongly encourage you to register for the Discord, to get involved in the discussions there, to post any questions that you might have for the panels and the speakers. We will have Q&A moderators who will be monitoring the Discord in order to pick out those questions, post them up onto the chat in front of the speakers to be able to, so that people can ask them questions and get answers from those speakers. It's a very different sort of format to a live event where we can pass around a microphone, but hopefully We're going to make this work. And like I said, hopefully next year we'll be back to doing this again in person. Now, the goal of ZCon is to bring together the community. In this event today, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create the closest equivalent that we can in virtual terms of the very successful ZCons that we held in Montreal and Croatia in the past. But all of this depends upon active participation by the attendees, by the people who are watching, listening, and it also depends on you getting involved for future ZCons. So if you like what you see here today, if you think to yourself, oh, I could do something like that, I could do something better than that, then please do feel free to get onto the forums and start suggesting ideas. Like I said, our biggest and most important job, I think, here at the foundation is to help the Zcash community realize its potential, to provide some sorts of framework, to provide funding, like through grants and the Open Major Grants Committee, in order to help those ideas, in order to help those teams who have ideas and who have the skills and the expertise to bring those ideas to fruition to do so. It's very easy to have suggestions and to have ideas, but it's not so necessarily so easy to access the resources in order to make them real. Well, we have those resources available. And like I said, later on, we'll be hearing from the Zcash Open Major Grants Committee, and they'll be outlining some of the work that they've done and some of the ideas that they are looking to fund, because it's not just a case of waiting for people to come up with ideas. The reason that the Major Grants Committee is independent, the reason that it's elected by the Community Advisory Panel, is so that they are able to have their own ideas, that they're able to say to the community, we are interested in funding these types of projects and in attracting those types of applications. So if there's nothing else that you take away from this conference today, and especially from my talk, it's that there is funding there available. So please look at the grants.zfnd.org site, start creating an application, and think about the ideas that you can enact and bring to fruition to help Zcash grow, to help it develop, to help it realize its potential, and to help us realize our overall mission of bringing financial privacy to the world. At this point, we probably have close to, if not over, 1 million people who have used or who hold Zcash. But in the grand scheme of things, that is a tiny, tiny number. There are 7, if not 8 billion people in this world. And I think that our goal should be to try and get as many of those people across this world using Zcash as possible. And ECC and the foundation are both relatively small organizations. We can only do so much. And that is why having a strong, vibrant, and active community is so essential, because it represents a kind of a force multiplier. So we can make software available, we can make changes to the protocol, but for example, until Zec Wallet came along, until Aditya created Zec Wallet, there was no real widespreadly used GUI wallet. There are new teams coming up with ideas like the Zine team, coming up with communications ideas that we would never have thought of within ECC or within the foundation. So I want to really, really reiterate, and if it sounds like I'm repeating myself, I'm doing so deliberately. If you have ideas, please apply for grants to be able to fund their development and to fund their creation. All of us are super keen to see other entrants and other teams come into this ecosystem to begin participating actively in supplementing and supporting the work of ECC and the foundation. We recognize that in the past there has been a big question over how such work can be funded. Well, that problem has now been solved. Now, the other key role that the foundation plays in ensuring that the community gets to have a voice in Zcash governance. Like I said, last year we saw the fruits of that when we were able to implement the Dev Fund, which was an idea that came out of the community, and details were all drafted and voted on by the community. And the primary way of achieving that community involvement in the governance process is through the Community Advisory Panel. Now, this is a group that was created several years ago. It was originally used to advise the Zcash Foundation board on adding new members. And we're going to reuse the community advisory panel again this year for that exact same purpose. There are a number of board seats that are opening up in the foundation, and we want to hear from the community. We want to get nominations for those seats, and then ultimately we're going to hold a poll of the community advisory panel in order to get advice from them on who should be appointed to those seats. It's an advisory poll only. It's not a strict election, but in the past, the last time we did this, both the highest voted candidates were duly appointed to the Zcash Foundation board. So we expect that will happen again this year. So if you're part of the community advisory panel, check your mailbox, because we've sent everybody who's already on the panel an email describing how they can expand the panel by inviting one other person to join it. Similarly, if you've been active on the forums since before March of last year, you're also eligible to volunteer to serve on the panel. And the reason that we're doing that is because per ZIP 1014, the foundation is mandated to expand the community advisory panel, the CAP as we refer to it, and to make it more representative of the Zcash community and to make it more independent of the foundation. So we're doing that by growing it, by allowing existing members to invite somebody else, by allowing longstanding members of the forums to join it. And we've also invited ideas on the forums on other ways that we can expand the panel. Now, we will use the expanded panel to run that advisory poll, like I said, to advise the Zcash board about who should be appointed to the seats that are coming up for renewal this year. But we're also, later on this year, going to be looking for ideas of what else we should be consulting the panel about. There's no point in having a commitment to following the clear consensus of the Zcash community if we don't ask the community what they're interested in, what direction they're interested in seeing Zcash take. So over the course of this year, we plan to begin setting out some sort of processes by which we'll be able to decide what questions we want to put to the panel, what level of involvement they will have in being able to make suggestions to both ECC, the foundation, and any other groups that become major parts of the Zcash ecosystem. And we think that's important because it's very easy, I think, both given my experience in the ECC and here at the foundation, it's very easy to having been involved in creating something like Zcash, to sit back and to think that you know it all. And the simple fact of the matter is we don't. It's very easy to become complacent. It's very easy to become somewhat arrogant. And I think it's important to ensure that we remain humble and that we remain open to outside ideas and that we listen to the voice of the community when they want to express an opinion or express a view on the direction that Zcash should take. Now, sometimes it's easier to express an opinion or to suggest an idea than it is to implement it, and sometimes there can be unintended consequences. So we have to balance listening to the community with leveraging the expertise that we have within ECC and the foundation. I think a good example of that relates to the balance of transparent and shielded addresses. It has been mooted that, or has been suggested, that we should simply disable transparent addresses in order to achieve a greater adoption of shielded transactions within the Zcash ecosystem. Now, that may well, doing that may well lead to zero transparent transactions happening, but I think it would also lead to a massive reduction in usage of Zcash overall. We would see it being delisted from exchanges. We would see it no longer being supported in wallets. And I think that overall it would harm the cause or the goal of increasing adoption of Zcash. So that's not to say that the goal of increasing shielded adoption is a bad one. It's just a question of how we go about achieving that goal. And I think that the role of the community is to set and to suggest and support goals like that. But then it comes down to the people who have the experience and the expertise like us within the foundation and within the Electric Coin Company to figure out the best way of achieving those goals. So whilst we are very keen to hear those sorts of ideas from the community, and we are keen to allow the community to begin expressing its opinion through polls on questions that affect the future of Zcash, I also want to temper that with the knowledge that we intend to execute upon those that sort of guidance from the community using our own judgment and expertise. Now, as I said before, if you don't agree with the way that we do things here at the foundation, you have the opportunity to nominate yourself to join the foundation's board and to put yourself forward for taking a very key role in setting the direction of the foundation. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, particularly if you have relevant experience of working with nonprofits or of governance of cryptocurrency ecosystems, then please do join the forums, nominate yourself for that position, and set out the rationale as to why you think you'd be a good person for that role. So, at the risk of extending things even further, I just want to go back and reiterate once again that we have a great lineup for you today. We have a lot of people who have played very, very important roles within the Zcash, in the history of Zcash, right from even before day one. I'm really looking forward to being able to watch all of these sessions live. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those discussions on Discord when I can bring that window up and no longer be having to focus purely on my Zoom window. And I would encourage you again to join Discord, post your questions, meet the other attendees that are on there. And like I said, this conference is not just about us talking to you, it's also about you telling us what it is that you want to hear and sharing your opinion, sharing your questions, sharing your ideas with us, so we can absorb those as we go through the day and again tomorrow. So with that, I'm going to draw to a close. In approximately 18 minutes, we'll be kicking off the next session, which will be a panel on user-defined assets, and I'll be chairing that particular panel. So I'll see you there.